Alright, I've been trying to de-trash my basement. I'm gonna set up a miniature painting project. Hello everyone, it's me. It's your old pal. I'm gonna start this stream off with the words of Greg Ginn from Black Flag. You know Greg Ginn from Black Flag. Jealous cowards try to control. They distort what we say. Try and stop what we do when they can't do it themselves. Rise above. Alright. This is page 10. I'm a third done. You can see I did the top 3 panels. And see, I'll zoom in on them so you can see them. So the thing about this camera, unless I maybe like jump the camera down and get it to focus in, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. But this is, we're going to call this the latter half of this combat sequence, and then after this I've got to draw a page where we're transitioning over to Gallows, so that'll be next. One thing I have not done, and I've got to do also, is I've been doing this hunter-gatherer comic, and my slowdown on hunter-gatherer is, is that I don't have the villain designs yet, but I had an idea for the villain design. It's going to be a possum. I got to figure out some dialogue for here as well. There's our leader. Leatherstocking is telepathically coordinating the two groups of hunters as they close in on this elk, the 6-legged elk. And one of the secretly watching them is this bandit group and this bandit leader named Roadkill. Roadkill's gonna murder this guy. Gotta figure out how to stage that. So we might transition to showing that. I'm looking at my output for the year. Let me go back to Rabbit Fighter. I'm looking at my output for the year, and I'm both slightly ahead of and slightly behind where I thought I was in different ways. Let me explain that. I didn't have as many pages as I thought for the year, but I've got more for the overall. So I'm already up to, I don't know, quite a few. 600 something. 650 or something like that. Where's my close? Let's follow the rule of Prada right here. This is the closest dude. Ooh, wrong brush. I need a brush with some swerve in it. There we go. See that swerve? I'm gonna have to redo that line because there wasn't any swerve in it. And I'm just trying to figure out, where I'm gonna be at the end of the year. If this comic is gonna make it into the Monster Anthology, the 9-volt anthology. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's cool if it won't. I'm just going to self-publish. It's Rabbit Fighter after all. And up until this point, I think I was trying to keep it down to like at most 3 panels per page. Like if you look through here, 1 panel, 3 panels, 2 panels, 4 panels. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels, 4 panels. Maybe I'm lying. With the notion that maybe I printed at a smaller size. I'm not completely against the idea still. It's an idea. The digest size is a good way to go. So many possibilities out there when it comes to publishing. Still want to do another newspaper. I did one earlier this year. My problem is I'm not so jazzed about the storytelling format of trying to reduce everything. I kind of came up with, actually I did several of my different comic serials. I reduced them to one-page formats for a series of stories. I did one for Isolde, I did one for Adam Frankenstein, I did one for I did not do one for Rabbit Fighter, but I could. I'll have to look. There's, and then a couple other newer characters. One of them could have been Corbeau, but I didn't really do it for him. The idea I had was just to do a sort of retelling of the Odyssey. And if you don't know the Odyssey, it's the ancient story of Odysseus. The premise is he's adrift at sea for a long time, trying to get home from the Peloponnesian War. And most people focus on the stuff that happens after he already gets home, and you know, basically there's all these suitors that want to marry his wife and inherit all his stuff. But he has a lot of like kind of crazy adventures on the way there. On the way back, he lands on all these crazy islands. And he starts out with a bunch of sailors, and then he loses the sailors, and then it's just him for a while. I thought that would be fun. You know, it would be basically like a Ray Harryhausen retelling, you know, because Harryhausen, of course, he was so well versed in the classics that he would just meld them into, you know, one big thing. So he would be telling, you know, the Jason and the Argonauts story, and he'd add bits and pieces of other stories. Same thing with the Sinbad. Let's say Harryhausen was hugely influential for me when I was a kid. When I was trying to play Dungeons and Dragons, you know, that was Harryhausen was what we were thinking of for a lot of this. Look at that thumb, that's too big. Alright. I know I've got all kinds of stray lines. Let's take a look at what we got and we can fix. I've heard this described as dots and dashes by Peter Hahn, or jots and tittles, right? All these sort of noisy parts of the drawing that end up in there. And if you were more disciplined, or if I was more disciplined, I would not have as big of a problem. So we're trying. We're making an effort. Make an effort. I'll make sure there's plenty of detail in the closest of the zombies, and as we move further and further away and get zombies in the midground and the background, we show progressively less detail. I was just at my basement, like I said, throwing the stuff out, and I ran across like stuff from when I was in high school. Like when I was in high school, I was in the theater department, and I drew some of the posters and playbills, and there were some sketches and stuff from that era. And the crazy thing to me is my art really has not changed. My style has not changed. Like, my proportions are better, my line weights are better, much more consistent. But if you had to pick it out of a lineup and say, okay, which ones are the ones that Peter did, you would automatically know. You would go and you would take one look at this one and you would go, okay, it's this one and this one. You know, you would know it. And I think that's actually true for everyone. The example I've used before is the Todd McFarlane one. I can't remember what the name of the book is, but he published some of his, like, his junior high and high school art, and it's it's not as well done. The proportions are off. It's all screwed up looking, but it's, you know, drawing a picture of Spider-Man or something. But it is undeniably Todd McFarlane in every picture. If you didn't think it was Todd McFarlane, you might think it's somebody doing a junior high kid doing a Todd McFarlane impression. That's the thing about style, though. All this effort. Oh, what is my style? Oh, I need to put this into my style. Don't fool yourself. You were born with your style. You cannot escape it. Lean into it. The trick is to draw like yourself, but more so. You know, you want to make sure you have things like the lighting correct and the dynamism of the figures correct and all that other stuff. Like, for example, this is not a correct profile, but it looks good. It looks, you know, the expression, the gesture, all that stuff. You know, if it's right, it works out okay. This is where all those tracers and the people who really believe in having everything referenced, it's what they're missing out on is their own genius. You know, everyone's got a little bit of something, except for people who don't. I do think a lot of it is shaped by your early experiences and exposure. Like, if you didn't read comics growing up, you ain't got a chance right now. And if all you read was anime, you're gonna have that look. It's gonna be in there. I see a lot of anime influenced styles where they have the big giant almond eyes, you know, for every character they draw. I think it's just inevitable that you're going to have that, you know, if that's what you know, you know. I gotta rework this hand. I think and I'm definitely in the Silver Bronze Age. Like, I was around for the Bronze Age. I was in the 80s, but I was collecting Silver Age when I could, you know. especially the 70s. Like, I totally remember when comics were 25 cents. Alright. How does it look? Something weird about this finger, so let's... Rabbit Fighter has the realization as he's fighting these guys, more zombies keep coming. So it's like, it's not working to try and stop in one place to face them all. So he bounds off. And the idea for that actually came from, speaking of vintage comics, an old Avengers comic that I had. I have an Avengers comic where basically the Avengers all lose. And there's only basically one survivor who doesn't get knocked out, and it's Beast, who had just joined from the X-Men. There was a kind of a push in the 70s. All the characters that had just been phased out of the classic X-Men sort of ended up in either Avengers, Defenders, or both. You started with Wanda and Quicksilver, of course, from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but and that was the thing for a while. And then it was Beast. I think Angel was there for a while. I think Beast, Angel, and Iceman ended up in either the Defenders. At one point they were in the Champions. I only had one issue of the Champions my entire life. The one with I remember what the cover looked like. It has Ghost Rider on the cover fighting the Griffin. I think it was one of the last issues, and they get their butts kicked in that one too, the Champions. That head's way too big. I think it's kind of cool to have it so that the good guys don't always win. You're setting it up for a future victory somehow. I mean, Thunderbolts was like that too. As much as you're enjoying following along, you know that they're not supposed to win. In the end, you're rooting for, I forgot what the Beetle's name is, Abner something. The guy becomes Mach 5 or whatever his superhero name was. And then there's also Citizen Victory, which of course I don't think they could do right now, because people have got themselves into a frenzy over stuff like that. But there's a really telling episode where it's Hawkeye has gone out of his way to help the Thunderbird. He's already figured out that, oh yeah, I know you guys are actually villains, but I'm going to help you out. And you're probably thinking, what? Why? Why would he do that? And the reason is because Hawkeye was started out as a villain too. Not the one you know from the MCU, where they started him out as, for some reason, a CIA agent. Makes no fucking sense. He was a carnival performer and a villain along with Swordsman, and both of them ended up heroes. And so did Black Widow. She was a Russian spy, so she was a villain. So is Scarlet Witch. She was in the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, so she was a villain. Technically, you could probably put Vision in the villain category as well, because he was, although his mind controlled by Ultron when he started out, so he was a villain. Other than Iron Man and Captain America, I think a lot of these characters were villains. Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, was a villain. Henry Pym was, to me, one of the most intriguing characters in comics. Goes back and forth between being is he a hero, is he a villain? He's this crazy scientist kind of guy. I think his shoulders are too broad. We want to make this guy a little bit wimpier. Yeah, I think Hank Pym got a raw deal, as I like to say. Because, you know, they needed somebody for this idea they had for the plot. Be a villain, and they said, okay, well, you blasted the Elf Queen in the back or whatever. She was one of the villains they were facing. And then they decided, oh, well, she was not really a villain, but you shot her. Like, it was a battle. He had no idea. I don't know. And they're like, we're kicking you out. That's it. So then he did some kind of thing where he staged some kind of crime that only he could solve so that he could get his way back into the Avengers. And then they said that he beat up the Wasp. Domestic abuse. Ripped from the headlines. This is not great writing, in my opinion, but it is what it is. At the time, I should not have gone all the way back to the back. I should have done the the mid-ground first. Alright, let's just make sure that we have continuity of line. Do you think I'll get this whole thing done? Maybe not. There's a chance that I will not. That's definitely our front row. Well, leaves the Rapid Fighter. Alright, so we can get into the exciting part. I gotta figure out how to design this roadkill villain for hunter-gatherer. Like I can go and get a picture of a possum and they don't look inherently evil. It's like they're, you know, they've got kind of a rat-like face, but they have these sharp teeth, really pointed nose. And there's this kind of a hair, fur, or rather, coloration. That I think will be really interesting. I like to call this my Rosloff homage post. homage. In the classic Deities and Demigods source book, there's kind of a famous, I think it's a full page shot of Thor just absolutely braining the Midgard serpent with his hammer, just, you know, two-handed swing, just bringing the hammer down, right? That's definitely what I had in mind when I was drawing this panel. Like, this is gonna, I want this to be Roslov, you know, hammer style. All right, is that top ear? Does that have to go all the way out there? I think it does. And you can see, by the way, this is something I actually did learn in Kubert class. There's the wind up, crowbar left. Here's the swing, crowbar right. I believe this was a Tom Mandrake thing that he showed. He has not taught the online course ever since. I know he taught it a few times, more than once. And definitely a great teacher. If I see him on there again, I'm definitely taking that class again from him. I learned so much in there, but I wasn't ready for a lot of it, you know. So it's like it's of limited use when you're not ready. You use what you can. All right, where's his thumb go? Does his thumb go? Does it go alongside, or does it go around? I think it goes around. This is right here. Like, does it go? Like, we could put his thumb up here. I won't. Draw the pattern on the poncho. The pattern is kind of what makes the poncho read as fabric. It is not normal to have this shape like used in a costume. So you need some way to kind of guide the eye. Alright, I don't know if I've got him. Roadkill. Alright, let's pull it off. How are we doing? So, do I put the jeans here? Like, is this the leg? Or do I push the leg even further back? It might make sense to really kind of really push the leg back. Push it all the way back to here. Like he's really winding up. I heard Rise Above on my car stereo as I was driving up. Jealous cowards try to control. they can't do it. All right, this is starting to come together. He's lost his hat. He's still looking good. Still looking sharp, rabbit fighter. Here we go. It's kind of funny. I was cleaning up the basement and I ran across the actual crowbar that this idea is based on. So the idea is based on, like, I can't remember. I think my son was like, "Can I have that crowbar?" Like, that looks awesome. I'm like, what do you need it for? He's like, "It just looks cool. In case I have to beat somebody up with a crowbar." Like, that's not a good use. But if you need it, I mean, just let me know. I was cleaning up the basement, I ran across the crowbar. Alright. I'm going to put this on its own level, on its own layer, just in case I have to move it. It's hard to get a clong. But you know what I already did? I screwed it up. I think this O is kind of sucky. What do you think? Alright, I'm going to take my time to get these other figures in here. Let's take, like, whoops, hold up. I think, yeah, it goes up above here. Okay. Let's call this the pencil layer. Pencile. Oops, hey, cancel. Alright, it's starting to come together now. Looking good. Looking good. What do you think? All right. There's going to be more to this panel. There's going to be some backgrounds. I've just got 4 or 5 more figures to draw. And then we'll have it all together. Complicated pages I've been drawing lately. Maybe I should go back to a simpler world. But it pays off. Please like, follow, and subscribe. There will be more. There will be more exploring of the video games on Vole playing games, and then we're also gonna get into this webcomic, Hunter-Gatherer. At this point, if I go farther than 10 page panels, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on Comic Fury. I've got plans for it. You know, I've got plans for this whole. I'm gonna get my Trapper Keeper out. You'll be the first to know about that stuff. I think if I do a Volehammer video tonight, it will just be the one where I design the villain, you know, and figure out what he's wearing and what he looks like, and then maybe some other bandits. There's got to be more than one bandit. We can't make them all opossums. The opossum isn't even particularly evil. This is just going to be a mutant opossum. That's going to be the leader. See you later.